Hello, my friends. My name is Shade Nightingale, and I humbly welcome you to my humble domain. This evening, I would like to talk to you about a movie that I have recently seen, which was called Logan. Logan is a film that takes place in the X-Men series of films. I regret to inform you that I have actually never seen very many of these X-Men movies, but I am familiar enough with the concept to at least follow the premise. So, allow me to share my thoughts about this movie. Oh, very well then. I have been instructed to inform you that there are spoils ahead. Whatever those are. What? You mean to tell me that people who have not seen the movie will go see reviews that will tell people what's in the movie, and then become upset when they are told what is in the movie? You people are very strange creatures. You know that, right? Anyway, let's begin. Our film opens in the year 2029. Mutants are dying off. The X-Men are no more. Logan, formerly known as Wolverine, is dying from adamantium poisoning. Professor Xavier, the former leader of the X-Men, has grown old, and his declining mental facilities are causing catastrophic psychic shocks. One such shock killed off the remaining X-Men prior to the film's opening. Now, Logan divides his time between chauffeuring in Texas and taking care of Xavier in Mexico, aided by the mutant Caliban, who has the ability to track any mutant. Things change for Logan when the mutant known as X-23 crosses their path. The child is pursued by the sinister agents of the Weapon X program, including the cyborg, Donald Pierce, and the amoral scientist, Professor Rice, played by Richard E. Grant. X-23 is one of various clones of the X-Men, created by the Weapon X program. And guess whose DNA was used to create X-23? No, it wasn't Professor Xavier. Caliban? Why would it be Caliban? It's Logan! Anyway, it's up to Logan and Xavier, but not Caliban. He's caught by the bad guys, to escort X-23 to a place of safety known as Eden. Along the way, they'll deal with themes of age, of the meaning of fatherhood, and they will contend with Weapon X's newest abomination, a clone of Logan known as X-24. Oh, and all of the adults, including the main character, die in the end. Boils! Well, how's that for a plot? Anyhow, let's proceed to my general impressions of the film before we proceed to the particulars. I really liked this movie. As I said at the beginning of this video, I have not seen any of these X-Men movies, at least not all the way through. I know the X-Men chiefly from their animated TV shows and from the occasional back-issue comic. Despite this, I had no trouble following the film. Now, I know before the film came out that it was based upon an older comic called Old Man Logan. Fans of that comic will no doubt be relieved to discover that the only thing that comic has in common with this movie is an old Wolverine. The future in this movie is nowhere near as desolate as that portrayed in the comics. Despite the presence of bionetic limbs, self-driving trucks, and advanced cloning, 2029 doesn't look all that different from 2017. Society still functions. Emergency services still deliver. And 20 grand is still worth something. The only thing that really threw me in this movie was the presence of X-Men comics. That just raises so many questions. Who prints these comic books? Why did the X-Men agree to it? How did the presence of these comic books shape public perception of mutant kind? And what on earth did Logan think about his costume? The film is rated R, so you can expect the violence to be much more graphic than in some other movies. Some of the scenes in this movie would make Quentin Tarantino flinch. I would say the most grisly death in this film is the one given to Donald Pierce, though by this point in the film, he more than deserves his death. While we are on the subject, let's discuss the film's villains. Donald Pierce is without a doubt the best villain in this film. He's smarmy and even charming, but ruthless when it's time for fighting. Despite hunting mutant children, we never really hear him express anti-mutant sentiment like his comics counterpart. I believe him when he calls himself a fan of Wolverine, which puts the Weapon X project into an interesting light. Consider this. We never actually see clones of anyone other than the X-Men. There were no clones of Magneto or anyone in the Brotherhood. Are we to assume, then, that the scientists for Weapon X read the comics too, and were fans of them? Because that would be absolutely adorable. If they weren't trying to murder children! Richard E. Grant turns in a good performance as Dr. Rice. It is mostly what you'd expect from him. Cold, calculating, and without empathy. I think his most interesting moments are when he pretends to be a warm, caring person, even though it's plainly obvious that he is anything but. X-24 really has no personality outside of his attachment to Dr. Rice. I initially thought they brought in a Jackman look-alike for the role, only to discover later that it was in fact Hugh Jackman himself playing X-24. In the end, Wolverine is only defeated by Wolverine, though I'm still not sure why they want to kill the X-Tykes. They do prove to be powerful little warriors in the end. You'd think Weapon X would at least try more persuasive manipulation techniques. In any case, I doubt cloning the X-Men was particularly cheap. They should at least try to get some return on that investment. Patrick Stewart turned in an amazing performance as the declining Professor X. The sight of Charles Xavier suffering from dementia is heart-wrenching, especially for those who've had a relative who suffered from that condition. Frankly, it's a concept I've never heard of before. A superpowered character who has grown so old that he has lost control over his own power? Despite the pathos, Professor X manages to be the funniest character in the movie. Just the idea of Charles Xavier swearing like a drunken sailor is hilarious. His exchanges with Laura and Logan are pure gold, bright spots in what is really a very dark picture. I think my personal favorite exchange is the one made between Xavier and Logan and Laura just before the bad guys show up in their fleet of cars. Don't worry, it's only a train. El tren! Choo-choo! That ain't a choo-choo. Funnily enough, they are saved by a train in the end. On a more somber note, Professor Xavier does not survive the film. And he dies in such a violent, bloody manner. In fact, I think his death was more shocking than Wolverine's death. Oh yeah, spoils! Now we get to the one who I think we can safely call the star of this movie. Not Logan. We will discuss him in a little bit. But I'm referring, of course, to Daphne Keane as Laura. This girl steals every scene she's in. Now, it is a general rule that child actors are, well, awful. I do not see this with Keene, who delivers a keen performance as the feral daughter of Logan. For over half the film, X-23 doesn't speak at all, but still manages to hold our attention with both her sheer presence and intelligent, alert expressions. And when she finally does start speaking, she is able to communicate in both rapid-fire Spanish and then heavily accented English, which lessens considerably as the film progresses and she hangs around more English speakers. I liked her relationships with both Professor X and Wolverine. Xavier fills the role of grandfather perfectly. Frankly, I wouldn't be too displeased to see her in any future films. And now for the mutant you've all been waiting for. Hugh Jackman is brilliant in his final performance as the Wolverine. He truly comes across as an old soul who has seen and done too much. Logan has no interest in playing hero again, and at several points in the film, he even tries to abandon Laura. Don't worry, he gets over it. As vicious as Logan gets in this film, I was half surprised that he didn't simply just shoot Pierce after he knocks him out near the start of the movie. It just seems he would have saved himself quite a lot of grief had he done that. Although I suppose he does have to at least maintain his hero credentials. The film has a strong theme of fatherhood pervading it. Logan and Xavier have a strong son and father bond, despite the fact that Logan is at least a good century older than the Professor. Logan later develops a similar relationship to Laura. Of course, it takes till near the end of the film before he starts to act on it. The relationship between the three leads sits in stark contrast to the relationship shown between X-24 and Dr. Rice. Dr. Rice only being kind to X-24 in order to continue using him as a tool. Despite Logan's standoffish behavior throughout the film, the audience never loses sympathy for him. Wolverine's death at the end of the movie is saddening, but considering the fact that this movie already had killed Xavier, it isn't completely surprising. Logan was an excellent movie. It shows that even a dark and edgy comic book movie can work, if it has heart. I humbly recommend giving this film a watch. Thank you for watching. Please, feel free to leave a like and a comment below. And do come back again to the Citadel. I will find something interesting to discuss, I'm sure.